everyone. League Leaders, Hot Topic Tuesday. Zach Sooty and Al Fragnoli. We're joined today by Brandon Gunn. Brandon, thanks for coming on and chatting sports with us again tonight. We appreciate it on Hot Topic Tuesday. We got a couple questions we're going to talk about. We're going to dive real quick first into a little bit of a topic that presented itself a couple nights ago in the NHL. So Nashville Predators are playing the Detroit Red Wings. A mic picked up NHL official Tim Peel saying that he wishes he would have made a call, should have made a call on a penalty earlier in the game. So interesting take that it was picked up by a mic. A lot of controversy, I guess you can say, behind it, gentlemen. The NHL investigated it a little bit. Tim Peel is no longer an official of the NHL, and there's no intention of him coming back to the league. So, Brandon, we're going to start off with you here, but why don't you touch a little bit on this? We know you're a big hockey guy. What's your take on it, and what do you think this means for the NHL, if anything?
So, I think that the interesting thing about this is that if you look at most box scores of NHL games, at the end of the night, most of these games are finishing pretty even when it comes to penalties for each team. I think that, we all know hockey is a fast sport. It's very fast paced. Many penalties don't get called. There are ebbs and flows. You got to kind of keep in the flow of the game. And even game to game, you may have one game that has 10 plus penalties, and then the next one, the whistles are in their pockets. So I think on the surface, what we're seeing here is a guy who spoke out kind of on an unwritten rule, and you probably shouldn't do that. I know that a lot of sports bettors were looking at that and thinking, okay, is this another Tim Donaghy situation, or, things like that. And Matt Duchene from the Predators, he actually came out and said, what Tim Peel did, we're in the dogfight for a playoff spot right now. Do these 2 points of this game, if Detroit would have scored on the penalty or the power play and won that game, what does that mean for their playoff chances this season? So there's so many layers to this situation, because you've got, something on the outside. Like I said, unwritten rules are that, most anybody who's played hockey knows that, hey, our team just got 2 straight penalties. Move your legs. There's a good chance that if you get taken down or even just clipped, there's going to be a call going our way soon. Most coaches talk about that on the bench. So it's just an unwritten rule that's come to light. Tim Peel is actually going to retire at the end of this year. So I think that the NHL was able to kind of get away with one. Something was caught on a hot mic, and they were able to send him off to retirement a little bit early. And it's a kind of an open and shut case as far as that goes. I honestly think this could have been a lot worse for the NHL, depending on the stage. Luckily, you had the Detroit Red Wings, who, as much as I love them, they're currently rebuilding. And then the Nashville Predators, who ended up winning the game anyways. So I think that luckily everything kind of panned out to where, there wasn't bigger ramifications on the table. But overall, it was not a good look. What do you think, Zach?
In these situations, you question integrity of referees, and they have, they're in a fishbowl. They're being criticized on both sides. There's nobody wearing a referee jersey rooting for the referees when you go to an arena. So they have the toughest job there. You made a great point. He spoke about an unwritten rule in the NHL, and I think it's something that everyone needs to take into consideration, that when those things are made and eventually just outspoken and being made vocally to say, hey, this is what's really going on. We may know as fans, we may know as onlookers that they're trying to even the game here or there. Maybe that wasn't a call. Maybe they're just trying to even the game. He made it known, and what was the intent? And I think that has a lot to do with it. What was the intent of that conversation? Did he really mean that he wanted to call that penalty, or was he trying to do something more than that? And I think they took into consideration some of his background and some of his previous issues that he's had in the league to make the determination to come to the conclusion of what I think it was an ultimate termination, but he was at the end of retirement. Maybe it was a something they agreed upon, but I think it's one of those interesting things that you can't speak about them. Hot mics can get you in trouble. Got a Southwest Airlines pilot in trouble this week too, so you got to watch those hot mics. But I think those are the types of things that sometimes what you say, you can say what you want, but sometimes there's consequences in what you say, and in this case, it caught him. And unfortunately, it wasn't a good look for the NHL. Could have been much worse, but there's an integrity to professional sports. There's a lot of people that rely on professional sports and enjoy it, and it questioned, it brought in a lot of questions for the NHL, which ultimately had little to no impact on the actual game. So I think they kind of came out unscathed, as you said. So agree with a lot of what you said. Al, want to transition a little bit. We are a few minutes from tip-off on the NCAA March Madness tournament, going down last game of the Elite Eight, going down to the Final Four. Who you picking, and how's your brackets? How are they holding up?
Yeah, so my bracket is shot. Okay, so let's just get that out there. I did 4 of them, and they're toast. So I want to make that clear off the record. I was a champion in 2 out of my 4 leagues last year. There's no chance at repeating. So anyway, UCLA and Michigan, obviously, as you mentioned, Zach, the last game that's getting ready to tip off in a few minutes here as we still record. I keep saying Michigan is going to lose. Without Isaiah Livers, I thought that they would lose potentially to LSU. I thought they would lose to Florida State if they matched up with them in the Sweet 16. To their credit, LSU played them tough and almost knocked them off. And then they absolutely dismantled Florida State. So maybe I should give Michigan a little bit more credit. I don't want to jinx anything because I do think that UCLA is a very underrated team, and it does have the potential to knock off Michigan tonight. But ultimately, I'm going to say Michigan has enough to get past UCLA and be the last of the 4 teams into the Final Four. So that'll be Gonzaga against Michigan, Baylor against Houston. Baylor against Houston, we'll start with that one. I think Houston has shown everybody that they are a very strong defensive team and that they can compete with anybody in the country. I think that that'll be a really, really good game. But if Baylor plays the way they did offensively last night, I think that they're going to knock off Houston. So I'm going to say Baylor advances. They've been a dominant team for most of the year. I say Baylor gets to the championship game. And I've said this since day one. Gonzaga, I am going to have beating Michigan. Gonzaga has won every single game, guys, this year, and they've won all but one of their games by double digits. So if they're playing Michigan or UCLA, we'll say it's Michigan. I just don't think Michigan's going to have enough with Livers now being announced out for the entire tournament. I think Gonzaga marches on. Gonzaga, Baylor in the title, and I am going to say Gonzaga cuts down the nets. Mark Few gets that championship. First undefeated team in college basketball since 1976. Gonzaga is going to be your national champions this year. That's my thoughts. Brandon, what do you think?
Man, I mean, well, you took a lot of my thoughts right away, but I think that, at this point in time, there's a lot of things that you take from these teams. So Michigan, first of all, I agree. I mean, what a gutty performance throughout this NCAA tournament up to this point without Livers, who, is arguably their most important player on a lot of nights. Very efficient shooting the 3 ball. But if you look at their wins throughout the tournament, the most impressive part about them is it seems like they seem to turn to somebody else each night to get that win and carry them forward. I mean, Shawnee Brown coming off of the bench in that one game with a massive performance, and you're just, you keep looking, and like you said, Al, you keep expecting them guys to just not match up quite as well because they're shorthanded, but then they over deliver, they dig deep, and you've got somebody else coming out each night that just storms the court and takes over. So with all of that being said, I do think that they do they run into problems against Gonzaga. I think that they'll win tonight against UCLA. I think they play Gonzaga, and then Gonzaga, man, I hate to go chalk here, but wow. I in the back of my mind, you think about their conference and what they did earlier in the season, and you think, can they hold up? I mean, and then all they've shown up to this point is that not only can they do it, they can do it on a big stage. They're not afraid of the bright lights, and they can do it against some big opponents. And I think you're right, Al. I think Gonzaga ends up advancing to the finals from that side of the bracket. On the other side of the bracket with Houston and Baylor, once again, I hate to go chalk, but Baylor they're on another level. Houston has come out and shown that their defense is really sticky, that they can be tight to the ball, but I just think Baylor squeaks by them. And in a Baylor Gonzaga matchup, I like Gonzaga to cut down the nets as well. Like I said, I hate to echo everything you said there, but I think you made a lot of good points, and I agree with you 100%. Now, also in line with what you said, all of my brackets are also shot. So these predictions that I'm giving right now could very well be wrong, because I've been wrong a lot up to this point. The best bracket I have is the one that I filled out with my family, with my wife and my 2 kids, that the winner gets to pick, I believe, a restaurant and a movie. So not a lot on the line left for me, but hey, I'll take it, right?
Nice. Zach, before we jump over to you to wrap up this Final Four pick here, Brandon, you mentioned something with some of their bench players coming up and showing up for Michigan. To me, that's a testament of what Juwan Howard has done to have his guys prepared. And I just want to make one fact known, is that Juwan has the #1 recruiting class coming in the entire country next year. So this Michigan team is going to be deep. They're going to be loaded. They're going to be a powerhouse for a little while. They're building something special here. So we know that we have a lot of people watching and listening right now that are avid Michigan State followers. I just want to say that the University of Michigan basketball program is probably going to take over for the staple in the state of Michigan. And it's time for Tom Izzo to move on. Zach, your thoughts. Let's wrap up college basketball. I just had to get that out there.
So I have a couple brackets and I'm still hanging in there, because I do have Gonzaga and Baylor in the finals. And in the 2 brackets I have still alive, I have Gonzaga winning one and Baylor winning one. So I got an opportunity. But Brandon, the bracket you have still alive is the most important. You got to pick a good restaurant. You got to pick a good movie, spend some quality time, and enjoy that, because that's the most important bracket. But, Gonzaga is I think, going to win tonight. Or they had already won. I think Michigan's going to win tonight. I apologize. Michigan's going to win tonight. We're going to see Michigan, Gonzaga, Baylor, Houston, Final Four. I got Gonzaga and Baylor in the final. And I'm going to go against the grain to have another undefeated team, the first since 1975-76. I'm going to go against that. It would be awesome. I'm all for records. I'd love to see it happen, but I'm going to go with Baylor this year. I think Baylor has been pretty impressive. They've been dominant throughout, and just going undefeated is something that we don't see much anymore. And I'm going to go against Gonzaga and just say I'm rooting for Baylor in the finals.
Nice, awesome. So let's transition that into our last topic real quick. Then we'll talk a little bit about Major League Baseball. So Major League Baseball season is starting up here in 2 days, right? Spring training is done today. We got the MLB season opening day Thursday. It should be a national holiday. Let's make that clear right now. So you got games lined up all day long on ESPN. We're excited for the baseball season to start. It's starting on time this year. We know it didn't last year. So thank God it's starting on time. Some ballparks are going to have some fans. Texas, full capacity. Can't wait to see that. So it's going to be great. But let's talk about the MLB season starting up. Maybe just touch on a couple teams that you're excited to watch. Maybe some players you're excited to see this Major League Baseball season. And if you have a sleeper pick to maybe make the playoffs, or somebody you think is going to win the World Series or be in the World Series, share some of those details with us. Brandon, we'll start off with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first and foremost, we're from Detroit in this area, and the Tigers, from what I'd like to see out of the local team, it's just they've got a lot of young talent. I'd like to see their starting rotation continue to get these young guys in there and have them take their lumps now, and hopefully we can be able to compete at a local level. You know, fairly soon here, once Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson, and once we start to get some bats in the lineup, hopefully these pitchers have figured out some things, have been knocked around enough early to where we can compete there. But league wide, I would say the thing that I'm excited most about, especially this year, is that I feel like the league is starting to get some players that are drawing interest. And I not just from the normal baseball fan that watches anyways, but guys that can draw other baseball fans in, or maybe fringe fans in, to watch a game, because this is a game that needs to grow, and I'd love to see it grow. But you got guys like Ronald Acuna Jr., Fernando Tatis Jr., and then they joined Bryce Harper, Mike Trout. A lot of these guys that are making baseball exciting and just really trying to. I feel like they speak to the younger guys. I mean, Fernando Tatis Jr. he's just crushing the ball, and he's super fun to watch. And so I would say league wide, that's what I'm most interested in watching, is just let's get some more guys in here that are going to get to the plate, crush the ball, do things the right way, and get that next generation of baseball fans interested, get them playing baseball. But team wide, and then when we start to look at the divisions, I think that I'll stay here in the AL Central. I think that the Minnesota Twins are going to knock off the White Sox. I think that the White Sox have been crowned by a lot of people to win that division this year. I think that the Twins will knock them off, just being more consistent and deep, not necessarily anything flashy, typical Twin style, just go in and grind it out and grind their way to a division. I do think that this, unfortunately, is the year that, the Yankees put it all together. They match the payroll with the play on the field, and they just, the evil empire rises up and does what they really should be doing for quite some time now. I do think that the Houston Astros, even though they let go of George Springer in free agency, I think that they'll win their division. And I think that the St. Louis Cardinals actually win in a tight race with Milwaukee. I think those are the teams that I'm really looking at. Obviously, you've got the Dodgers out there too, that are deep, strong team. And I'm really, if I had to make a World Series pick, I would pick the Dodgers over the Yankees at this point in time. And I'd do so purely because of my disdain for the New York Yankees. I think that they'd probably win, but I would root for the Dodgers in that situation, just because, the Yankees, they're tough to root for around here anyways. What do you think, Zach?
So, there's a couple things on the line this Major League Baseball season that I'm anxious to see. I think everybody wants to see what the Padres have put together, and you said it with the Yankees. Is the payroll going to match the play in the field? With the Padres specifically, I think that in the race with the Dodgers, you're going to have the Yankees with Garrett Cole. They added Jameson Taillon, who's someone that Alan and I admire, being former Pirate employees who had an opportunity to see him up close and personal in the minor leagues. So rooting for the Yankees in that aspect. I never would root for the evil empire, but personal rooting there for Jameson. But I think I'm really anxious to watch the Toronto Blue Jays. I really like their squad. We have some friends in the organization, so rooting for them. So I think the Blue Jays are a team I want to watch. And what's interesting about my hometown team, the Pittsburgh Pirates, I want to watch Brian Hayes and see what he puts together. See him in a full season. Solid glove at third base. He's hitting well this spring. It's going to be interesting to see what he does. And then with the Pirates, it's going to be interesting to see who they pick in the draft this year. They have a tough decision ahead of them. So that's going to be interesting. They've built quite a great farm system since Ben Cherington came along and Derek Shelton. So interested to see what they have in the next 2 to 5 years and what they're building. But it looks like they're putting together a nice foundation, similar to what we saw when Clint Hurdle and Neil Huntington came on board, and they put together a playoff team, and back-to-back playoff teams. They just couldn't get past that wild card game. So it's going to be interesting to see what they put together. But I am anxious to see, the Padres, Dodgers. I think the Yankees, the evil empire, as you put it, puts a squad together. But I'm rooting for the Blue Jays to come out of this and hopefully make it to is going to be my early World Series pick as a fan. Al, what are your thoughts?
So I love what both of you guys shared. First of all, obviously both of you guys know me very well now, and I'm obsessed with baseball. I'm so excited for the season to start. I'm excited to finally see some fans back in seats. So I want to make that known. Brandon, I'll start with what your point, you and I being Metro Detroit guys, the Detroit Tigers. What am I looking forward most with our hometown Tigers here? I think AJ Hinch is a perfect manager here, and I know a lot of people might not agree with that, but when you listen to him speak, I do firmly believe in my heart that he is genuine about owning up to a mistake that he made, that he regrets. And I think that when you have a mentality like that and you feel that people are against you, you're going to be motivated even more to show the world what you're all about and prove yourself again. So I think that he's motivated to do some amazing things here in Detroit. And I think he's probably going to be your right guy to fill in on the rebuild here. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the young players coming up through the system. Tarek Skubal, Casey Mize, I'm hoping that they have some breakout years here and they can show that their progression from last year's shortened season. Don't know if they're going to have a ton of success, probably not, but just hope as a whole that these players start to develop and they show progress from where they left off last year. Just kind of staying in the American League Central Division, I actually do think the Chicago White Sox, their young, upcoming team, I do think they're going to win that division. I think the Twins are going to be really good as well, probably be one of the wild card berths. And I do think that the American League Central is one of the deepest divisions in baseball. I think the Cleveland Indians will still be very competitive as well. Zach, to your point, the Toronto Blue Jays, I am excited to see what they're about this year. They're a very young team. They showed, I think, a lot of their youth last year and their development. I think they're going to be very competitive again this year, and they're only going to get better. And to your point about us knowing people within their organization, Katie and her staff down in Dunedin are doing an amazing job with that, the player development facility and the renovations that they've done this past year. So I think that's all going to culminate in their youth's development and progression into the big league roster. And I am excited to see what they're about. I'm not confident enough to put them in the World Series. Am I rooting for them? I really am, because I like seeing those young up and coming teams have success. But I do think, to your point, Brandon, that the Yankees are probably going to be the favorite out of the American League to represent themselves in the World Series. When we shift over to the National League, Zach, again, you mentioned the Padres, their youth. The Padres and Blue Jays, I believe, are very, very similar organizations heading in a very, very good direction with a ton of youth that is coming through the ranks. They've developed them very well, and they should be good for a while. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Padres. I can't wait, and I hope ESPN, and I'm sure they will, feature some Padres-Dodgers matchups, because I think we had a glimpse of this last year. I think this is what we're going to witness as a very heated rivalry as the Padres inch closer to taking out the Dodgers. I don't think they will this year for the division crown. I think the Dodgers will find a way to edge them out, but maybe next year and in future years, the Padres look for them to start winning the division and overtaking the Dodgers. Looking forward to seeing the Chicago Cubs. I know, they should be around. Rizzo wasn't able to lock up a contract, so this could be his last year. Does he have an amazing year trying to, position himself for free agency? I think he does. I think the Cubs will be decent. I'm looking forward to watching the Atlanta Braves, The New York Mets, we didn't really touch on them. I believe that they're going to have success this year, and I look for the Atlanta Braves and New York Mets to make the postseason. If I had to pick one team coming out of the National League, I think it's very, very difficult to continue to have the success like the Dodgers have. And I am going to pick somebody different, and I think it's going to be the Atlanta Braves. So I say it's going to be the Atlanta Braves, New York Yankees, and I would absolutely love seeing this World Series matchup. I'd be pulling for the Braves, and it would be solely because this would remind me of some 1990s classic baseball where we saw Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, John Smoltz. It would bring me back to my childhood days of watching the Braves on TBS and seeing those historic runs that they made. So I'm going to go Atlanta Braves over the New York Yankees in the World Series. But those are some of the teams that I'm excited and really looking forward to playing baseball this year, and cannot wait for Thursday. So
Al, just before we close up, the Atlanta Braves, early 90s, Sid Bream was out.
Okay.
NL
Right,
East.
I love it.
Sid Bream was out.
We thank everybody for joining us. So we appreciate you following us, tuning in. Thanks again, Brandon, for coming on and chatting sports with us here. We appreciate it. We hope you join us next Tuesday for another edition of Hot Topic Tuesday. Like always, every Tuesday evening, tune in. And we hope you join us this Sunday for our guest, Abby Way, social media manager for Seven Springs Resort. So thank you again for tuning in. We appreciate it.